Greetings and welcome to an LGR Halloween thing, and this time around we've got one of the spookiest things of all, mid-90s e-waste. Seriously, this thing is trash, or at least it would have been had I not gotten it through an electronics recycler some years ago. They just had a bunch of random stuff nobody wanted, obviously, that's why it was there, and I grabbed this for cheap because I saw, well, it said screensaver, but it was a controller situation. And it's got this Frankenstein's monster kind of guy in there, and it looked Halloween-y, and it says you control the action, but it's a screensaver. That seems more like a game. Just, what is this? I had so many questions, and I had to get them answered, so I started doing my usual digging around and going through the graves of old articles and write-ups and the history of this thing, and uncovered way more than I thought that I would. This is actually far more fascinating than it has any right to be, whether or not it's even a spooky thing or not. Whatever, man, it's Halloween. I felt like covering it finally. Let's take a look at the screen toys. Yeah, let's just get into it. This particular one of the screen toys, this is the Stitch by Creative Insights. It's a screensaver where you control the action. Zap that database or something along those lines. You know, basically they're like, if you don't want your screensaver to just be a screensaver and you want to take out a little bit of frustration, get hands-on with the action, then here you go. It combines Hollywood quality on-screen animation with a wacky toy that plugs into your computer keyboard port. And yeah, there were versions for both Windows and Macintosh, so AT/PS2 and ADB ports. Yeah, this is a gimmicky offshoot of that early 90s screensaver craze, arguably kicked off by the After Dark series of screensavers and their copious add-on packs and re-releases with new content, often adding in things like pop culture tie-ins and holidays and all that kind of stuff. So this fits into that, but it is a more interactive element, which again screams more game than screensaver to me, and I guess they were banking on people expecting a bit more from it, considering it cost $50 in the very tail end of 1994. Although it didn't take long for that price to come down. It was $40 by 1995, $30 by 96, and down to less than $10 by 1998. And it's really not too surprising considering this didn't sell well. This thing ended up on store clearance shelves pretty quickly because Creative Insights Incorporated, they went out of business shortly after their big May 1995 reveal at the first E3 show. Yeah, the company was deceased by August 15th, 1995, having only released a few of these Screen Toys products, as well as one other thing, the Piano Discovery System keyboard. But yeah, it was this article talking about their demise that really sent me down a rabbit hole with the whole company. It turns out that Creative Insights had a Creative Labs tie-in. And not only that, but they had some big name founders when they got started in 1994 in Cupertino, California. With one of the co-founders being Ed Esber, one of those computer industry pioneer type folks who's done 100 different things across his career, like contributing to the Speak and Spell at Texas Instruments, becoming the CEO of Ashton Tate, and the COO of Creative Labs in 1994. Which explains the creative connection and the company name, Creative Labs, Creative Insights. Yeah, their formation in 1994 came about from a reported $7.5 to $10 million in seed capital from primarily Creative Technology. And another of their company co-founders was Joe Ibarra, a former Apple employee, and he happened to work there at the same time as co-worker Trip Hawkins, and they eventually joined together to co-found Electronic Arts. And then later on, Joe became the president of Studio 3DO, as well as in 1994 being the head of his studio Ibarra Productions, which made Sierra published games like Alien Legacy and Shadow of Iserbius, and was absorbed completely into Creative Insights. Oh, and another CI guy who came up repeatedly was Paul White, who worked on the Nintendo Power Glove and the Miracle Piano, among many other electronic devices, before also working with Creative Insights on the Screen Toys. So yeah, all these folks, among many others involved, just industry veterans, many of which come from gaming, and they decided for whatever reason to create an interactive screensaver, which to me, again, just seems like a game. It was even advertised under games in certain magazines, weirdly the sports section in this one, but yeah, they were also developing games before the company went under. One of them originally was conceived as, quote, Marble Madness with a third-person view. Yeah, whatever that means, the company went bust and the prototype was purchased by Accolade, and they finished and released that as the DOS game Eradicator. Yeah, there's a tie-in that I didn't expect. But anyway, Screen Toys flopped, leading to financial trouble with Creative Insights, and Creative Labs pulled out of the second half of their pledged financial support, and CI couldn't get the funding they wanted, with this quote here being kind of amusing. The venture capital community wasn't receptive to a second round of funding when it hadn't participated in the first. Brutal. But yeah, they made back a little bit of money at least by selling off the Screen Toys brand to this company called Contango, and they presumably sold off the rest of the stock from 1995 through 98 or whatever. And there were 3 of them, with a toilet apparently being their best seller from what I've read, called Latrina, where you can flush away things on screen. There was also TNT Tad, the explosive fetishist monster. I don't know what he is. Originally he was known as Joe Blow, but yeah, it's just a classic plunger detonator box type of controller that came with him. And then we have our Screen Toys toy, Stitch, with the knife switch as the controller, which makes sense as he's a sort of Frankenstein's monster mixed with a gorilla. Yeah, he was originally known as Franken-Kong, but trademark, copyright, somebody probably was iffy about something, so they just went with the name Stitch for this Screen Toys variant instead. And yeah, to my knowledge, this has never been fully opened up or used. I certainly never have. Yeah, let's just go ahead and get to it. So yeah, we've got some software here with the 3 different characters. What is that? Is that what Latrine, the toilet character, looks like outside of the toilet? My goodness. Anyway, yeah, this has never been opened up. It is still very much in there, and we'll see what that's like. I can't find a copy of it anywhere online, so I will definitely be archiving that. We have a Creative Insights registration card. And warranty, 90 days limited. And our manual here for Stitch and his knife switch. Really just selling you on the product you've already purchased. Okay, suppose you're sitting at your desk, working on the 14th draft of the spreadsheet that has to be finished by tomorrow. Your boss tiptoes up behind you to bark an order at you, and bam! You accidentally lose all the data you entered that day. What to do? Throw your computer through the window in a fit of rage? No, because you've got Screen Toys. Right, so I guess this is an anger management solution for people that have gone completely nuts in the mid-90s. Instead of going Office Space on your equipment, you just do this. Very simple in terms of installing. It is just a little pass-through for your keyboard, really, and then it'll send some kind of keyboard commands through the keyboard port and interact with the software. So presumably, you don't even need the knife switch. If you can figure out what exact commands it's sending, you maybe just press those on the keyboard and that'll be fine. But of course, what fun is there in that? And it's built to withstand a goodly amount of physical abuse, but excessive abuse. For example, slamming the switch back and forth repeatedly can break it. Treat it with a modicum of care. Well, considering what they were describing earlier, as somebody that's prone to throwing your computer through the window, who knows? I guess that warning is maybe well advised. And there's a screensaver mode. Huh. So it's not just a screensaver? I guess it's program slash screensaver. We'll see. What a very plasticky thing. There's a couple of different AT 5-pin to PS2 adapters in both male and female form. And there's this part here where you plug in your keyboard and then the other part into the computer. Simple stuff. I see why they included both of these now. And this is just a thing. That actually does have a bit of a satisfying pull to it, or like an action at the end and the beginning. It sort of thunks into place. But that's about it. Patent pending. Wonder if they got that in time before they went out of business. Well, that's what this is. Let's see what kind of keyboard command it throws out and save our screen with some spooky stitches. All plugged in, just passing through with the Model M going into this and then this into the computer, and At the moment, it does absolutely nothing, so I was wondering if it would send a keyboard command. Doesn't seem to. Obviously, it is sending something over the keyboard port, some kind of clock pulses or whatever, but nothing that would show up in a text editor. And obviously, you can just type in things. That's not something that it's doing. And it also isn't showing up in like, let me get this. Yeah, just like this here. This would be your standard kind of keyboard tester program. You can get everything that would go in as a normal key press, but this does absolutely nothing with any of the different settings or keyboard things that I've tried on here. Yeah, I don't know what exactly it's sending across. Although there is somewhat of an idea provided by Paul White. He has this Screen Toys technology section on his site and says that each one of them uses an identical circuit, a Zilog Z86 CO4 microcontroller sending key codes to your keyboard port. This should explain it all, and it just shows some clock data going back and forth across the keyboard port for a PC, and I don't really know exactly what that says, except that there are some pulses going across that the programs know how to interpret, but pretty much nothing else does. And yeah, that does mean I unfortunately cannot play Duke 3D or Doom using the Stitch controller. And also, you can install all of the different modules, the 3 of them, up to 26 whole megabytes, and even request this on floppy disk, which I wonder if anybody did. Anyway, let's get this installed. You can install all 3. If you install the thing which you have not purchased, it will not be usable and will waste disk space. Well, I'm going to do it anyway. Presumably, though, this won't work with the other ones, because if this is not putting in any kind of keyboard commands, like just general ones, and is instead sending other things across the keyboard interface that only the each individual software module will know how to use, then yeah, it wouldn't make sense to install but one of them. That's cool that they're all on the same single CD-ROM. Certainly saved on some distribution costs, I'm sure. I wish this thing lit up or something. That'd be awesome. One's 256 color mode. That makes sense. I guess we'll switch over. All right, 256 colors. Also figured 620 by 480 would make sense because this is meant for Windows 3.1 and it is effectively from 1994. So here we go, Screen Toys. Oh. I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing, but that doesn't seem very involved. It also doesn't seem to be listed in the screensavers. I guess that's why it wants all the others disabled, because it's not really a screensaver, is it? I mean, it could probably act as one. All right, so they could see the other modules that we don't have. I also assumed that there would be sound. So this is, what, your transitions, I think is what it's called. And then here, yeah, maybe your scenes. Maybe it's the other way around. One is scenes, one is transitions. Maybe not scenes, just cartoons. Anyway, so yeah, these are the cartoons. Punch holes in monitor, lightning storm, love struck. You know, this really reminds me of the Bad Dog screensaver to a degree. Like, let's do punch holes in monitor, for instance. So there's your transition, and it just does that whenever you activate this, and then I guess... Ah, okay. Huh. Oh, so it does light up. Dude. I mean, it's nothing too crazy, but it is something. It's got lights. Oh, I like that. Guess I just didn't notice it before, but anyway, yeah, so, all right, what we got here? So we got our transitions, you can randomize them and do them in order, just the ones we select. Oh, there's our sound and music, all right. Wow, this is... It's a thing. I mean, the animations are good, the sound effects are fun. But like... this doesn't really do anything other than turn on and off the screensaver and kind of change the direction of the next animation, I guess. Oh, something like I'm controlling the direction she's walking or when she turns around. I mean, okay. Oh, not obnoxious at all. Oh, wait, what? So you actually do kind of control this one. Awkwardly. I mean, oh my gosh, this is infuriating. Yeah, like, some of these it feels like you're not doing anything at all. It's just kind of waiting for the animations to play out. Which is fine. You know, if this were just a screensaver, right? But it's like, it's this thing that's kind of interactive but kind of not, and when it is interacting it sucks. It'd be nice if there was an explanation of each of these. Be like, oh, here's what you do in this one, because each one is kind of different, you know. But it doesn't tell you anything about anything. Just that you can play with things and see what happens. Yeah, like that one's relatively interactive, right? It's like he'll run, or you can shock him. I think this one, it wants you to center it. Yeah, okay. It's like they really couldn't decide if they wanted to make games or just a kind of fun little screensaver. Why not both? And if they wanted to make games, you know, like this is a dreadful, dreadful controller. Okay, whatever. I mean, bring it to life. Again, I don't know if I'm doing anything. What the heck is going on? Just the most obnoxious sounds. You can see why it defaults to muted. I don't think that one's... Nothing's happening. Okay. I guess I'm just controlling the direction he's walking. Alright, well, we've seen everything. I mean, you know, there's definitely some entertainment in, like, smashing up your Excel files and stuff. I'll give it that. But, you know, otherwise, it's just such a silly gimmick that I can absolutely see why this did not sell, and the company was just like out of business before long at all. Yeah, I don't know how this happens sometimes, but you know, I can go into something like this with practically zero expectations really and still end up disappointed, especially doing the research and seeing all of the ridiculous amounts of industry knowledge and talent and experience from game designers and industry connections and everybody being brought in to create this stuff at this new company backed by Creative Labs. And then this is what results. I mean, I know they had other ideas. They were actually developing some games that were interesting and turned into some interesting stuff later, but you know, this is just a screensaver with a piece of plastic that doesn't really add much to the experience. I mean, imagine paying $50 for one of these in the mid-1990s. It'd make way more sense as like a $10 or $15 novelty, which is what it ended up being just a couple of years, you know, and ended up in clearance on sale for less than 10 bucks. And yeah, that's the kind of thing that you just grab at an Office Depot at Christmas for your kids, and it's a stocking stuffer thing that'll entertain a 4 or 5-year-old for an afternoon. But as a desktop accessory for office workers, people that wanted to destroy their spreadsheets and other folks that were trying to market this to, I mean, come on. At its very best, at least this one is really just a seasonal novelty. Something that you'd sell at Halloween as a computer gimmick, just a little thing to put on your screen during a Halloween party, and you know, that's that, and you put it away for the rest of the year. Was the concept a great use of $10 million in funding almost? I mean, I'm amazed that these kind of things existed. It is a complete identity crisis of a product. Like, it wants to be a game, but it wants to appeal to the screensaver people, and it also wants to be for kids, but it's also for office workers, and somehow it was headed up by these people from the industry that have been around for decades, and were basically legends, and everybody involved, from what I saw, at least all the higher-ups, did perfectly fine. In fact, a lot of them are still involved in games and whatever other industry stuff today. But yeah, that is beyond enough for this video on this silly little Stitch screen toys thing. I hope that you enjoyed something about this, and at least maybe learning about the history of the company. And yeah, if you have any weird memories that this brought up, like maybe you had one of these and forgot about it completely, that'd be amazing. Let me know your experiences with any of these if you had them. And I hope you stick around for other LGR things. There's always more stuff in the works here. Retro stuff, new stuff, so stick around for those if you'd like. And as always, thank you for watching.